Howdy. Today this is going to be the first part in a multi-part video series, short videos, talking through the process of creating loops that can play in your game. Some sort of loopable music, and also something that can be automated in-game to change the feeling as you move from environment to environment. Starting off this first part, we want to talk about actually creating loops and the things to be aware of when you're creating those loops in any software. We're going to be using Ableton today, but working through the process of making sure that you, I guess, just are familiar with the pros and cons and the issues that might arise when you're trying to create a seamless loop to actually play appropriately in the game. There's a little bit of extra noise coming through in my microphone today. It is raining outside, so there might be a bit of noise underneath it, but you'll get the idea. Cool. Okay, so I've got an Ableton session set up here. This is just a default session, and again, I'm not a crazy composer. This is not my key strong suit. I enjoy making music, but it's definitely not. I'm not a pro. So I'm going to walk you through and explain all of the details. Hopefully you've got a little bit of an understanding of Ableton, but I'll try and explain as much detail as I can. So this is our basic Ableton window. Realistically, for what we're concerned with, this section up the top here in Ableton, if you've used any other DAW software like Pro Tools or Logic, you'd be used to this section being where you put your effects in. It's not in Ableton. It essentially works like a big sample pad in here so that you can trigger and play back loops. We're not doing that today. We're going to be working purely over here inside of our main timeline view. Just is going to make work a little bit easier. I'm also pretty zoomed in on my screen here, so you should be able to see what's happening. Cool. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to create some sort of percussion. Easy way to do that inside of Ableton is if I go to drums, I can grab one of these pre-created kits, which is always nice. If I click on it and I've got this little blue icon on down here, it will autoplay. Give me a little sample of what that kit's going to sound like. If I want to just filter through and not have it play, so long as I have that ticked off, it's not going to work. I can test it out. These are quite useful. I like to build my own because then I don't have any unnecessary instruments in there. So I'm going to grab just a plain drum rack and drag it over to here. And you can see I've got these spots here to drop individual samples into. So I've got a little MIDI keyboard here. Take caps lock off. You can see down in the bottom, you'll be able to see the keystrokes that I'm using. So with my MIDI keyboard, I've got a little one of these little guys, which is connected into my interface. So if I play anything back, you can see down here, we've got that indication of those notes being played back. So I know that if I press this key on the keyboard, this one here, that I'm going to get that note playing back. So that tells me where I should drop a sample. So if I go in samples, my three core components, I'm going to keep it real simple, is I need a kick drum, a snare, and I need some sort of lighter percussion, a hi-hat kind of idea. So if I search kick in my samples, now with that audition button on, just cycle through until I find something I like. You can click with your mouse, or you can just use your up and down arrows on your keyboard. There's lots of fun options. I think I probably want something that's a little bit more natural. I kind of like this guy. I think I'm picking it because I like the name. But either way, it doesn't matter. We can change it later. So now when I press that key, we can see that we get some controls down here, which is kind of nice. I can't do too much extending this guy out. It's a relatively short sample. Maybe I'll pick something a little bit longer. Yeah, that feels nice. Great. Okay, so then on my next key, this one, D, I want to put a snare. If I change my mind, I want to change these later. We always can. Oof, nice. Snare normally cuts through a little bit harder because it's in that frequency range that our ears hear much louder than the low frequencies. So we might find that we need to tweak the volume level of these individually to make sure that they come through cleanly. Kind of like that guy. Great, that's fine. And let's grab a little hi-hat. If I can type. I like these 505 ones. They grab me a little bit better. Cool. Great. So now, a couple of ways that you can approach this. What we could do is we could create a little loop section up here. If you don't grab this little guy, if you just select anywhere on your timeline and press Command L, that will generate a little loop section for you and turn the loop mode on. If you want to turn a click track on, and turn this guy. Just that little dude will start playing a click track through your ears, and we set our tempo. So if I just press play, we get something playing back, right? I just realized that my actual speakers were on, so if that sounded a little bit funky, that'll be why. Cool. Okay, so I don't want that yet because I don't quite know what I want to play yet. I gotta figure it out. One cool benefit of Ableton. So if I try and I gotta try and feel something out. Not quite feeling that. Gotta get in the groove this morning. The vibe's not here. Kinda. Sort of not quite doing what I want it to do. I'm gonna change that kick up. I feel like it's not giving me the vibe I want. Sure, let's do that. Okay, so that's shocking, right? But it's something, and I can work with that. Cool thing about Ableton is this little button up here. If I select this, what it will do is any MIDI data that I've been playing, even if I haven't been playing it to a click track, it will bring that in. Look at this. And it will assume up here what it feels like the tempo that I was playing at was. So it reckons I was pretty close to 127. Hey, not too bad. If I look at this, you can see that there's a few, like these snares are a little bit early, some of these kicks are a little bit late. I want something that's pretty much on grid. So all I have to do is if I press Command A, I can highlight everything. I can go in and I can change my quantize settings inside of here. 16 is totally fine for me. So I can actually use the shortcut Command U and it locks it all to the grid. Great, love that. Okay, now that hi-hat is probably a little bit too loud and also a little bit too consistent. So we love working smarter, not harder. So let's just make sure that we've got the right 1, 2, 3, 4 bars selected. Fantastic. Now you can see down the bottom down here, this has got all the velocities of those hi-hats. Now I can just bring them all down. And that starts to change things up a little bit. What I also could do is if I wanted to add a little bit of variation into them, I can come down here into my notes and into my velocity range, and I can add that I want to randomize them just a little bit. Put a bit more randomization on them. See, they all move around all the place down here. If I undo that, bring it even a little bit more subtle, hit randomize again. See, they just shift up a little bit. Hey, it's something. We can work with this. Like I said, It's not the key, the focus for today. You can spend as much time as you want on it. Cool. Okay, so we've got some sort of drums, and let's just double check that it is in line with that click. Great. Okay, so I'm going to bring this all the way back down here. I am going to now figure out what I want to create over the top of this. Let's say that we want to create a bass. Now, I can go into my instruments. Again, we're trying to do this in a pretty simplistic way. These are my default basses that I've got here. I kind of like this guy, a little bit more subtle. So I'm moving between notes there. And you get that big drag on it, which is this glide time here. So that's saying that it's taking 274 milliseconds to glide from one note to the other. If we bring that down, now we're moving quite quickly now between the two. And I could take glide off. And then we don't get that transition. I think I'm going to keep it off for the time being. I can always add it back later. I'm going to press play. So I need to hear what we're playing here, and then I'm just going to make something up. Go over the top of it. That's already a song. Like some children's entertainer stuff. Great. Okay, so I'm going to use that button again. Magic. I'm going to drag it back open. We're going to put it back over here. Great. I'm happy with that. I want it to be a little bit better quantized, so I'm going to grab it, Command U, lock it on that grid. Also going to make these notes just a fraction longer so that they don't have that harsh transition between them. A little bit of a low frequency crunch coming in there. We can mix it after. It is coming in this for sure. Might be just the frequency or the drive that's on there. Yeah, cool. Cute. Love it. Okay, so it wants some sort of keys. It's asking for some sort of keys in here. Actually don't need these audio tracks right now because we're pretty much mainly working in MIDI. So I'm going to remove them. I'm a sucker for any bell kind of textures. Something very like, I feel like this is going in like a 90s children's TV kind of vibe. But that's fine. Ooh, okay, so we're an octave down at the moment. If I bring that octave up, man, I love this. This is deep. Cool. I gotta remember what keys I play. Okay, so I'm going to try and figure out what's going to work well here. Let's play it back, see what works. something there. I played a few dodgy notes, but we can work with that. So what I want to do here is just hear how this works in timing. Okay, so we can hear there's that flub note in here. You can see it. Just highlight, delete. Yeah, look, close enough. We don't always have to quantize. Leaving a bit of humanness in here is always a good thing, but for right now, I just need stuff on the grid. That last guy's a bit dodgy there. There it is. Great. Cheesy. This is some cheesy music. You can see that my master's peaking quite a bit, so I'm just going to select all of my tracks. I'm just going to bring their levels down a little bit. Oh. Great. Love it. Need some sort of like body underneath it. So maybe like an organ-y kind of vibe. I don't quite know. Not like that one. Yikes. Yeah, it's a bit moody. What does that sound like? Kinda. Maybe if I played it lower. Great. Now, because I want it to play the same chords but just longer, again, smarter not harder, if I grab this and I hold down Option, I can make a copy of it. And if I jump into here, I grab all these notes, just make them significantly longer. Let's see what this sounds like. The other thing is it's also an octave up, right? So I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so we can see what we're doing. This note here is a C. I've got all of my notes selected. If I just grab and drag, be careful not to move it up and down, but drag it down to a C below here, then we've just dropped it down an octave. I think it'll probably be easier to just play it. It's at least the right chords, it's kind of getting there, but I want it to be played a little bit differently. So, again. That was pretty close. I'm pretty happy with that. The reason why I'm going for things that are varied in textures, right, is because we want this to be adaptable inside of our game. We want this to be something where in one area, maybe it can be a little bit happier, brighter, maybe we're walking around, it's positive, and then maybe we walk into a slightly more tense environment and we want the shift to sit in there. You could imagine that if we're listening to these elements together, starts to change the vibe a little bit. Now, what I'm also going to do is I want to create a duplicate of this drum where it essentially feels more stripped back and feels like a different version, a variant. So I'm going to duplicate this drum track I'm going to disable this first one, and then I'm going to edit this guy. So first of all, I just want to hear what happens if I just take all of those hi-hats out. What does that sound like? Cool. I don't think I want to take them out completely. But I think I want to... Actually, what I want to do is I want to make this half-time. There's a couple of different ways that I can do that. I'm also just trying to think of like what the best ways of doing it when I'm being lazy are. Cool. So if we were to take out some of these additional kind of hits in here, just simplify this down a little. That'll do for now. Awesome. He's okay. I think I just want something else other than this pad. I'm not quite getting the vibe that I want from it. Okay, we'll pretty much wrap this up in a second. Fun about that. So, do a little test, see if I like the vibe of it. Just going to duplicate that down. Cool, and I think for this one, that second last hit just needs to hold for a little longer. It's that point of composing where you go, I don't like that part. I think this just wants to hold that note for the whole time. So let's get rid of those guys. What does that sound like? Got a real tension to it. Cool. I dig this better than what I was doing with these bells. We'll keep them there, but it's not giving me the feel. So what am I doing? Instruments. So it needs something else. Oh, that could kind of be fun. Again, I'm just playing with ideas here. I'm going to wrap it up pretty quickly. Nah, we got the wrong. Try not to spend too much time here. But I'm obviously spending too much time here. No, you're not. Really simple, but kind of dig that. How long was that full bars? That worked. Let's record it. Lovely. Bring it back. Oops. Not too far. Doing a more ethereally kind of vibe in this. Now I've got these two weird little clips here. I want to join them together, so I'm going to press Command J to join them. And this very first little hit here, because it's actually starting back before that MIDI clip was starting, we weren't hearing it. And then we've got a little double up down the end down here, which I'm going to remove. A second little duplicate on this guy. Sort of. Let's call it. That'll do. Okay, so tracks I'm not using currently is this organ. So this is the basic idea. But this might be useful in a section of the game. Both of these will be useful in different sections. I'm going to export everything that we've created here, and we may only end up using part of it. Okay, so now comes the export process. So There's a couple of ways that you can do this, but first thing I want to talk about is when we're working on a seamless loop, right? You can hear right now, I'm going to play just this last little note here. You can hear that continue out for a long period of time. Now that continuation would be sitting on my timeline out down to here. But if I just grab this clip and I said export, well, that's going to cut all that tail off. So that means we're going to have this swell and then it's going to go back to dry the second that that loop comes back around to the start. Right now, the software is able to play it back because it has those plugins on and it's running it live in real time. But once we render this out as a physical audio file, that tail gets lost, and that's why your loop sometimes can sound quite choppy. When you're doing this in a software like Pro Tools, for example, it doesn't have a built-in loop function, so it's a little bit more clunky. What you would have to do is you'd have to jump into here. If we selected this track, for example, and I say freeze this track, that's essentially rendering the processing onto the track. You can see this tail that's been extended out down here. That is how long it's saying that reverb continues for until it stops, which is mad, right? That's crazy. So what you would have to do then is you'd essentially have to grab this tail, put it back onto a new track, pop these guys together, and do it again until you get all of it there, and then render these as one file so that you actually get to hear that tail on the end, which you can do manually. But it's about essentially recording that reverb out, placing it back to the start of the WAV file so that it then feels like a seamless loop. It means that you'll start with reverb at the start. Most people are not going to notice that, but it means that it will then be a seamless loop forever beyond that. That's one way to do it. So I'm just going to undo this processing that I've just done here, because fun function. If I go to export, you can go up to File, Export, Audio, Video, and you end up with this clip. It's asking you first of all, what do you want to export? Now, I want to do realistically just the selected tracks only. I haven't selected them yet. But then in here, you get to select render as a loop, and that's where it does that process for you. It just saves so much time. It's great. Cool. Okay, so I am going to select the tracks that I would like to export, which will be those ones. The reason why I do that rather than saying just export all tracks is it will then export a reverb, a delay, and a master, which I actually don't need nor want. So, File, Export, or Command-Shift-R, selected tracks only, render start, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, that one, through to the end of bar 4. That is that correct? My brain's tripping me out. Yeah, I believe that's correct. Cool. Okay, render as a loop. Fantastic. We're going to export them as WAV files because we want a higher res file. It does mean that while we're working on a game project, they're going to be a little bit higher res, but as opposed to exporting as I think they give you the options for AIFF files, so that's like your Apple version, essentially. You can also encode MP3s, but the issue with MP3s is they actually end up having a tiny fraction of silence when they're looping sometimes. Which we don't want. So it's better to actually render as a WAV. Once we export through our game engine and we create a compressed version, it will go through the process of compressing those files. Otherwise, I would suggest that you convert your files after your DAW software to the Vorbis file format, the .ogg format. That is a compressed file, but it works a little bit better for game processors. For the time being, WAV file is totally fine for everything that we're going to do in FMOD and into Unity. So If we now hit export, it's going to say, where do you want to put them? And I'll say, that's a project that I was working on. Let's just create a new folder that is for this project. Yeah, it is a game project. And inside of here, just create a file, folder in here. Awesome. Still going to save the audio file as untitled. I did do selected tracks. Let's see what happens in here. Should do each track individually. Unless I've messed something up through the process. There you go. Beautiful. Okay, so now I should be able to find, if I pull up that folder, game projects, project session, audio from door. Oh yeah, it's the title part. Yeah, no drum. We'll work with that. Excellent. So now I have each of these. I might also just modify this so that it says that this is my drum rack, but it's got the hi-hats in it. Just as a little note for me. And if I press spacebar on my Mac, ooh, we're not hearing it. What have I done? Oh yeah, that's what I've done. Not thinking, because I disabled these tracks, right? That's my bad. So turn those tracks back on. So that will be this guy and the bells, I think. Let's just check inside of here which ones didn't work. Cool. Okay, so track 1 we got to redo. Track 2 is good. 3, 4. Organ. Perfect. Okay, so let's get rid of that organ. Let's get rid of that first one. In the bin. Come back up here. Grab that organ. Grab this one. Wouldn't be a project if we didn't mess something up halfway through, right? Beautiful. Render as loop. Fantastic. Export. Pop it in that same folder. Sure, let's call it untitled because that's a thing that we've done apparently. Beautiful. And we can see that this one was created at 10:03. This one was created at 10:03. And that one will be our hi-hat. Always check your files. Awesome. Okay, so we have these loops. We've built our loop section ready to go. The next process now is importing those into FMOD, starting to build the environment in FMOD, also then building the environment in Unity, and connecting all the dots. So that's going to be in the next video. Hopefully this was useful. If you got any questions, let me know.